What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey YouTube channel, episode 36 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Icavone, and I'm joined, as always, by Jack Smith. And if you're catching us live on YouTube, please make sure you smash the subscribe button, hit the alert so you never miss a show. And for all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you're the first in line when newest episodes drop. Attention, hockey fans and golf lovers, HW Hockey has just dropped the perfect blend of style and performance, our brand new HW Hockey golf hats. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to do something different during this episode, and I'm going to put the overlay up while I do the read. There we go. This way, you guys, if you're interested, go ahead and scan that barcode while we do the read here. Whether you're hitting the links or just repping your favorite hockey brand off the ice, these hats are designed for comfort, breathability, and that clean, classic look. With the sleek fit and embroidered HW logo, you'll be turning heads while sinking putts. So don't miss out. Keep it high and wide all summer long before they're gone. Venmo at HW Hockey, and make sure to send over your mailing address so we can ship out your HW gear. There's your barcode. There's the price. If you're an avid golfer, avid hockey, avid HW Hockey fan, there you go. Grab yourself an HW Hockey golf hat. They don't improve your game, as evidenced by the last couple times out for me, but at least you'll look good on the golf course. All right, so a couple new things before we get going here. I know a lot of you guys are probably already following the YouTube and Twitter accounts, but we did change the @ to kind of sync some things up. We're now at HW Hockey YT on YouTube and at HW Hockey X on X. So just in case you guys wanted that information, you have it. Okay, so rolling right along here. Where do we want to get started tonight, Jack? There's been a lot of information that's come out during the past week, and like typical off-season stuff, some housekeeping with the Flyers. We can get started with the actual stuff. There's some rumors that we want to get to, and then obviously some draft talk, and maybe we'll wrap it up with some Stanley Cup playoffs, Stanley Cup Finals talk. So I guess let's start with the Flyers and a couple coaching moves there. Brad Shaw, kind of, we know he missed out on the head coaching job, was not kept on as an assistant coach, and has signed on with the New Jersey Devils. When seeing that announcement made official today, Jack, because I think information came out last week, what were your thoughts?
I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, it's such a shame. We really envisioned a way where we somehow kept him. And that started with Mike Sullivan. And Mike Sullivan didn't, he obviously was never had a chance to come in here. The whole Tocchet thing. And it was kind of weird because there was times where I was like, they're not getting Tocchet. They're gonna fall back on Shaw, and that'll be that. But when they got Tocchet and Vancouver hired Adam Foote to take over as their head coach, who was Tocchet's defensive coach in Vancouver, it was like, ooh, everything's aligning here. This makes sense. But almost immediately that was shut down, and Shaw opted not to return, which was bad enough in its own right. And then to see him pop up in New Jersey like this with the young defensemen they have, like Nemec and such, and Luke Hughes and what have you, it's a double sting. But I get it. I can't be mad at the guy. I understand why he most likely wanted to move on. He was probably like us. He's like, look, Tocchet might come here. He might not. I'm sure he heard things we didn't. But he pretty much probably felt like, I probably have the job if they don't get Tocchet. And to go through all that and pretty much be the last guy to be told you didn't get the job, it's got to be tough to go through the motions again, work for the guy that beat you out for it, even though you knew he was their favorite. I get it. I understand. I'm glad he landed on his feet. You knew he would. It's just a shame that he'll be doing exactly what we need for a division rival who has some really nice young defensemen who could use some tutelage. So it really stings. It's bittersweet because I really feel good. He's a good dude, but it's a business and it is what it is. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'll say this, I'll be following his sort of coaching career, maybe for the rest of his career now. Admittedly, before he was an assistant with the Flyers, I knew very little about Brad Shaw and the way that he worked with the Flyers D. And, we'll talk about Ristolainen some, maybe even after this in the episode. But the way that he turned a player like Ristolainen around who is a veteran in this league, and not just a 3-4 year veteran. Like, he's been in the league for a while now. Without looking, I want to say 8-9 years, and to be able to work with a vet who came from an organization like Buffalo, where player development is maybe not their greatest asset, or they're not known for player development at least, and to be able to sort of transform his game into what he is now, or is a very serviceable, I think, top 4D. It's impressive. So knowing what, you mentioned New Jersey's got going on with their defense, a lot of young defensemen. You mentioned Nemec, you mentioned Hughes. There's another guy I'm missing there. He's got a cool Seamus Casey. I'm going to watch to see. I'm going to be intrigued to see how he does with this young decor. I don't know. I don't want New Jersey to succeed, but I will be following his career. So,
yeah, it's tough. You're gonna have to cheer from, but it's a division rival, so it's kind of like,
right.
It is. Oh, at the end of the day, I hope honestly it doesn't work out. It is what it is. I get it, but come on, it is what it is.
Yeah, and then there's going to be some bombs dropped throughout the course of this episode, and let's drop one right out of the gates here. So we have his Flyers offseason getting ready to explode. And maybe this isn't one of the bigger bombs that it's going to explode during this episode, but Ian LaPerriere was kept on as a hockey operations advisor, I believe what the role was. So Lappy's staying within the organization. He was relieved of his duties with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. There was speculation that he wanted to leave and explore a potential coaching opportunity behind an NHL bench. Flyers basically said, "Hey, you're under contract for a year still. We're not getting rid of you. Would you be interested in helping us transition some of the younger guys to the pros?" Because he's got all this information. How long has he been the coach down there? Like 5 years or something like that.
More than that, yeah.
Yeah, more. So the move makes sense. But what were your initial thoughts on that, Jack?
Well, when I first saw it, everybody had the same fear. Oh God, he's coming to and I knew deep down there was no chance, but you never know. I think I was more so like when it wasn't like, I thought it was his decision at first not to return as head coach, but I'm sure there was a discussion, like you're saying, like I understand they want a new voice down there anyway. And when you look at the coaching record now, it's not like he's piss poor, but when you look at the individual, he's not a good X's and O kind of coach. He's very much good at he's always been pretty good with the young guys. When I say that, though, I don't necessarily mean growth, which is kind of counterintuitive, but I just mean like they had a locker room and an atmosphere that was positive. He wasn't running them through the ringer or anything like that. Like those players, they enjoyed playing there. They wanted to be there kind of thing, unless your name's Kolosov, But, so I think they like that, at least at first. But then it got to a point, it's like, well, we kind of like, I think they really wanted this team to go on an extended playoff run, and they did pretty good. And they did have some injuries. Obviously, Cal Peterson coming in for Gahagans didn't help anything, but like there was very little coaching adjustments. I think they extended the series as far as they could, at least against Hershey, with a lot of luck, a lot of good individual efforts on the penalty kill, which they were on way too much. Like, talk about an undisciplined team. And it wasn't just the new guys that came in. It was the team across the board. They were averaging at least 6 penalties a game in a playoff game. They don't even call penalties in the NHL playoffs, for God's sake. So I think you kind of look at it like, and obviously there was goofy reports coming out of, I think it was Frank Saravelli saying, "Oh, he'll be a good NHL head coach one day." I don't know who's going to take that risk. Based on what you've seen, I don't understand where that's coming from. Deep down, I know where it's coming from. But as far as him actually being an NHL coach, yeah, it ain't anytime soon. So it sounded like they wanted a different voice down there. He kind of plateaued, I guess you could say, in the Flyers organization. And like you said, they like the guy. You take a puck to the face, job for life, basically. But they like the guy clearly. Got a year left, like you're saying. I mean, advisor, that means nothing. They'll probably be at fantasy camp or something. He's good with young guys and what it takes to be a Flyer. And when a new opportunity pops up in another organization, I'm sure he'll take it. And that'll be that. And in the meantime, they'll keep him employed until he figures that out. Good for him. Good for them. I'm not freaking out like I saw on Twitter saying, "Oh, they're changing the color, new brand of orange. Talk about same brand." I'm like, he's not going behind the bench. They didn't add him to the organization. He's already in the organization. I have no idea why that sent people aflame. No idea. But yeah, he'll be around. He'll do God knows what. It won't really matter till another opportunity pops up. And then just like Bradshaw, good for you. Hope it works out. That it will. See you later.
Yeah. Yeah, not the bomb I think everyone was expecting, but we know that Twitter or X is what it is, man. That's all people want to do. They're waiting for something to get angry about or blow up about. And Flyers, the Flyers have been pretty good with giving them the ammunition for that the last few years. But this,
that's true.
I don't think was anything to get go up in arms about there. So let's continue on here. So we mentioned Rasmus Ristolainen, and this came out, I think, towards the end of last week. It was a long weekend, Memorial Day weekend, so we didn't really get a chance to cover it until I think yesterday. But Bruce Garriock of the Ottawa Sun was putting out information for Ottawa saying that they were interested in Rasmus Ristolainen. Obviously, the deal never got done. He also included in the article that the Toronto Maple Leafs were hot on the heels of wanting to trade for Ristolainen at the deadline, obviously with the Flyers. And he speculated that there was at least one of Toronto's higher-end prospects. Look, whether people want to agree that the player we're going to mention, is considered a haul, because there's a debate there too. I want to talk about that. There was a prospect and a draft pick, presumably a high draft pick, because there weren't specifics mentioned in the article, but there was a prospect and a pick on the table, supposedly for Ristolainen, and the Flyers turned it down. Around the deadline, we heard that the Flyers were asking for a player, pick, prospect, right? And if we're going by Briere's track record, that meant a higher end prospect, most likely a first-round pick of some sort. It doesn't have to be this year, because there was somebody in the comments saying the Leafs don't have a pick this year. We know, right? But you can trade future picks, whether if it's 2030, you can trade that pick, whatever it is. And then what Briere likes is a guy that they can, take on and potentially flip the next season. So I assume that's what he was looking for. Didn't get it and turned it down. So this came out, and I know that this is going to be an interesting topic for you, Jack, because you were very much on the let's move Risto, not so much get rid of him, but let's get something for him while we still can. So with this information coming out, and specifics, weren't really out there, but if we're going to assume, I think we can compare. Toronto ended up trading for Brandon Carlo. And if I'm not mistaken, they ended up moving Fraser Minton and I want to say a future second-round pick, something like that.
Yeah, it's a first. They moved, for Toronto's first round selection in 2026, and Fraser Minton.
Yeah, there you go.
They also got our fourth rounder in 2025, and the Bruins retained 15% salary on Carlo. Okay,
if that deal's offered for Ristolainen, are you pressing the deal button quick?
For the 2026 first alone, yeah, I am. I don't think the Flyers were offered that personally. I don't have any proof or anything. I think they would have accepted that. I think if they were offered that and turned it down, that's a big negative against Danny for me. Now, there's no proof of that. I feel like I know they weren't big on Minton. I know that. They didn't want a guy who projects as at best. If he hit his, what he's probably going to hit, it's like a third line center. I know we need centers, but we don't really need
enough of those guys, right?
Exactly. So I know they weren't too interested in that. A fourth round pick is whatever, but a 2026 first would have been real nice. So for that alone, I'm most likely accepting the deal. I don't care what you got to retain, but I don't know that that's what they were offered. I know they had a price and they stand pat on their prices, and the track record of Danny shows he sets a price and either you meet it or surpass it if there's other teams involved. And based on the trades he's made, that's what he does. So unless they set a trade, whatever, so high, that that offer didn't meet that, then I'm scratching my head. Like, seriously? Like, we were hoping to get rid of this guy a year and a half ago. Now, yes, you should get something for him. But Jim, you had said like they should get what they got for him, which isn't going to work out perfectly. But 2026, a hell of a draft, allegedly. So a first rounder there, a decent, a pretty good prospect. Whether it works out or not, it's one thing, but you still got to consider Minton a pretty decent prospect. And a later pick. I mean, that's a pretty close to what they gave up for him. At least as close as you're probably going to get. And so the idea that they would have turned that down in its entirety, I'd be really surprised if they were offered the same thing, because that's not how it works.
Yeah, so that would be in the ballpark for me, right? Like, like you're getting there's a lot of potential in that return there. And we, as Flyers fans, we know that potential doesn't always mean, guy's going to pan out, but hey, you have a guy, you can potentially build with. Now, without watching Fraser Minton play like ever, we have a Noah Cates, right? So I don't know if people see him as a second or third line guy. I see him as third. You have a Sean Couturier, second or third line guy. If Fraser Minton's not going to be a potentially top six guy, and does he do much for you if you're the Flyers? It's like, look, we'll move Risto, but if we don't get exactly what we need back, then we'll just keep him. You know what I mean? So that deal would obviously make you think like, oh, this is, it's close to as good as we're going to get here. But again, I could understand why they pulled back if they have because it also sends a message to like GMs around the league, right? You start to develop a reputation if you're a GM. If you want a player from the Philadelphia Flyers, you need to meet the ask or come very close to it. And if Briere didn't get exactly what he wanted, then, that's fine. I think, as most people know, like I'm a fan of Ristolainen's game. It sucks that I think he's got the same injury or very close to it. He tore like a triceps muscle or something like that. And he's not going to be back until November, December. So that blows, but he'll be back for the time period before the trade deadline, nice and fresh. And, if they still plan on shopping him, he'll have 3 months to showcase, that he's okay. Luckily, his legs are still going to work, so he should have no problem staying in shape, this and that. But we'll see, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was an interesting tidbit that came out. There is a Shabanov comment, and we are going to touch on Shabanov here. I don't know if you guys could see the super chat thing, but we set a goal, and we are going to talk Shabanov. I don't know. So I don't know if you say this guy's name Shabanov or Shabanov, but Shabanov is more fun to say. So I'm going to go with that until I hear it said Shabanov. We good with that?
Works for me.
After
Russian names we learned growing up, we were all saying wrong anyway. So who cares?
So we set a super chat goal of 10 super chats for the episode. Antsan did put an article out about Shabanov, and in the article he mentioned 2 teams in on Shabanov. I've done some digging around, and there are a lot of teams in on Shabanov, but there's one specifically that I haven't seen mentioned. And I have confirmation that this team has been scouting Shabanov over in Russia during the Gagarin Cup finals, yada, yada. If we can hit 10 super chats by the end of the episode, I'll release that third team. And we're not going to like it, but I'll release it. So, all right, let's talk Shabanov, Jack. Guy's 5'8". Look, I'm not going to compare him to Kucherov because I've watched very little of him, but this kid can skate. He can move. He can pass. He can score. And he's flat out fun to watch. A late bloomer, 24 years old, 20 points, and I think 21 or 22 KHL playoff games.
22.
Breakout regular season. I know it's KHL, second best league in the world, but we've seen Russian players come over late and play well in the NHL. Is this a guy that you prefer the Flyers really take a look at and potentially sign?
Yeah, it's not do or die, but if they're in the mix, absolutely. It's a free asset. You're signing them to an ELC. He'll take up a contract. You're not putting 14 million on the guy. I understand the talk about, oh, he's another small guy. We're going to be so small. We're going to get beat up. We need to get talent. Just get talent. See what you have. See what sticks, and make some moves accordingly from there. If it was going to cost us an arm and a leg, assets, and a ton of money to get him, oh, okay, well, then you can have that conversation. He's not going to cost anything, at least not at first. So you might as well get him in the organization, see what you have. Having another Russian for Michkov would be a hell of a thing as well. I mean, 67 points in 65 games, finished I believe, third in scoring in all the KHL and second in assists with 44. I mean, and he was in the running. I don't know if they have it yet, but he's in the running for the Golden Stick, which is their MVP. He's one of the three. I don't know if they announced a winner or not yet, but I mean, what else do you need to hear? I don't care how big or little he is. Like, he's a winger, and we have plenty of them too. No, we don't have a whole lot of talent. He seems like he's pretty good. And if it doesn't work out, would you lose? You didn't give up anything. You didn't pay him anything. Not really. So why wouldn't you be? And plus, I don't want him going elsewhere and being really good. So you might as well get him in, put him with Michkov, get them, going back and forth and what have you, and just see what you have. If he's good, then trade another tiny winger or tiny whatever, or whatever. Move on. The point is, you got to get good first. I'm not worried about these playoff moves and getting our Matty Kachuk and all that stuff. Let's make the playoffs first. Then we'll have that discussion. And we need talent bad. So I'm all in. Anybody who's good, who we can get, not cost us too much or anything at all, I'm all for it. So, yes, I'm definitely in on being one of the teams that gets him, if we are one of the teams, because I'm hearing mixed reports now, like you're saying. So I don't want to say too much because I don't know what you're going to reveal, but I did find the comment in the chat here about that. Did I flash the team? Was that the team?
I didn't see it.
It's in the chat. So it's not like it's, hidden.
Another report out there that it's Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's it. So no super chat tonight. Thanks a lot, Sean C.
In his defense, he had it before you made the announcement. I brought it up. You know who posted that? Friend of the pod, Marco D'Amico.
Yeah.
Get him, Jim. He's saying right here, this is, I guess, a day ago, Vegas Golden Knights, Pittsburgh Penguins seem to have a 2-horse race going for Shebanov. So, yeah, I don't know how true that is. That was on the 23rd, actually. So,
yes,
we're hearing it's Vegas and Philly. So, I guess Vegas is definitely involved. Obviously, a return to Russia because I believe he wants to go for their Gargan something cup. Because they just fell short. I don't know. He's 24 years old. He's probably good enough to play in the NHL. Now will be the time after a season like that. I would imagine he's coming over. I don't know why he want to go to Pittsburgh, but I'm not him. So we'll see. We'll see who's selling the truth. Still, he's really in on it. We have a pretty good pipeline, or at least established a pretty decent one lately with Russia. So I would imagine we're in the mix in some regard. I can't imagine he would look at our team and be like, like you have an opportunity in Philly. In Pittsburgh, you get to play with Crosby, I guess, but how old's he now? He's still good. Don't get me wrong. But, I don't see that team going anywhere. Philly's he's going to be on the rise. Pittsburgh's on the downward trend. That doesn't make sense to me. But then again, everybody's human, so they have their reasons. I think the Flyers are definitely still in the mix in some capacity. Maybe we're not as high up on the list as we thought we were, but I cannot, with our connections and Michkov on the team, I refuse to think we're out of it. I don't think it's a 2-horse race because Russia's the third horse, and I believe there's others. And as you alluded to earlier, Jim, a lot of teams are sniffing around here, to say the least.
Yeah, there's. So what I was told is I was talking to the guy that wrote the article that everyone's referring to, and he said there's a lot of NHL teams that are showing interest, but he named specifically Vegas and Pittsburgh had scouts over in Russia watching the finals. Flyers are obviously one of the teams also in the mix there. So those are the 3 teams that I know of, and Vegas is mentioned twice. So from what I was told is he's got a personality similar to Kucherov, and we know Kucherov. We know he likes to win, number one, but he also likes to have a good time. And so for me, Vegas kind of stands out, but we'll see. I'm not going to poo-poo anything. Shabanov. So for me, Flyers are a small team, right? We all know that. If you're putting out a few guys on the table and say the Flyers can sign this guy, this guy, this guy, and we're going to throw, let's say Marco Rossi's one of the guys and Maxim Shabanov. If it's between those two players, even though Rossi plays center, I'm going for Shabanov. Why? Because they don't have to give up picks. They don't have to sign him to the offer sheet. I think there's less risk with Shabanov, and I'm not sure if the Flyers can get talent without giving up assets. Do that, right? Because
always
you didn't draft Rossi. You didn't come through your system. Go get the guy that's less risk, and if it doesn't work out, he can go somewhere else, or he can go back to Russia, a la Kolosov, whatever it is. I know he's a wing, which sucks, but you mentioned, hey, we need talent, and let's figure it out from there. So that's why I am pro, dude. If the goal is Stanley Cup and competing in the playoffs, we need to get bigger, and we need to get bigger kind of quick within the next year or two, in my opinion. I would still be interested in Shabanov. He's 5'8", but if you watch this kid play, he's fun. And I don't know if he'll be able to do some of this stuff that he does over there in the NHL, but let's give it a shot. It's low risk, right?
Low risk, free. I don't care what your depth chart says. If you have an opportunity to get an asset who's good and potentially could be great, you just do it. Make it work. Just do it. Like, okay, oh God, we brought in another small guy. Okay, ship out Bobby Brink. Ship out, take your freaking pick. I don't care. And it's like it's not like we're going for it. We're still in a finding out what we have kind of mantra right now. Let's see who can do what, who's the best player. And if it, like you're saying with Rossi, you're giving up assets to get Rossi. A lot of that's just because he's a center. But this is a winger. I get it. He's small. He's also really talented. That's all I care about. And if we were giving up assets, like I was saying, we can have that conversation. You're not. You're just outbidding. You're just trying to sell your team on top of other teams for an ELC, 3 years, whatever. See what you have. I don't know. It's a no-brainer to me. And this whole small stuff, I get it, but it's like we'll have that conversation later if they don't do anything about it. If they keep all these small guys and they're okay, we're going for it. Okay, well then we'll have that conversation about how small the team is and how the playoffs could be a disaster. Let's get good first, then we'll go from there. And just to answer this question real quick from Zach, who do you think the Flyers should grab at 6 if Hagens and Martone don't fall to us? I think Hagens is probably going to go right before Philly goes. I'm hoping Porter Martone goes before because I don't see us taking a wing. We really shouldn't be taking a wing. So theoretically, we'll say both of them are gone. That would mean one of Frondel or Desnoyers would have dropped. I'm going Frondel. I mean, he's all over the draft boards, mock drafts. We'll have that conversation. Check out our pod on Thursday for more of that. Check out last Thursday's pod on that. We talked about a lot of Hagens and Frondel and Desnoyers and even Brady Martin. And another good name that's going to pop up is O'Brien as well. Jake O'Brien. So, that's another name I would consider at 6 at this point. So just to answer that question real quick, there'll be plenty of draft talk coming up.
Yep. We also did player profiles on every single one of those players mentioned. So we got you covered draft-wise. Big show last week. And then if you just want to do little player profiles, they're out there as well. You can stop here at HW Hockey for your draft information, guys. We got you covered.
Zach, check in on Thursday, Zach. I got a lot to say about Brady Martin, and I like him, but that's all you get. That's just a teaser. Check in on Thursday. Seriously.
All right. So while we're kind of on the topic also of small teams, big teams, playoff hockey, I put Rod Brindamore in the topic list for this week. And after they were down 3-0, I think they had lost 15 straight in the conference. 15 straight losses.
Do you know
in the conference finals?
Before they won last night, Brindamore was on the team the last time they won in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Did he score the goal? I think he scored the goal.
You read this? Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. I mean, wow, that's a long time ago.
So I asked the question, 15 straight losses, all under Brindamore as coach. Is it time to start asking questions about Rod Brindamore? And majority of the people that commented were, I would say, educated and gave educated responses and said, no, it's the GM. The GM didn't construct the team the right way. And it's like, okay, but the guy can't win one single game. Not one. Like, we're not talking, 3 straight Eastern Conference final losses. At the time, we were looking at 3 potential sweeps. So, like, dude, you have the roster that you're given. You can't make an adjustment to win you one game, and we're going to let him off the hook. You know what I'm saying, Jack? Like, we're not talking 3 Eastern Conference final losses. We're talking getting your ass waxed, swept out of the building 3 straight times. Now, they won last night, and they looked good. So it can be done, right? We saw them simplify things. We saw them play the right way. They were giving Florida fits. Florida looked disinterested at times in that game, in my opinion. They looked gassed. Now, I know they're missing some of their star players. Reinhardt's out. Some of the bottom 6 guys were out. Greer's out. There's one more I'm missing. But you can't make an adjustment to win you one game, and we're going to blame the general manager. And I know the general manager is a calculator jockey and whatever. But come on, guys. Like, I know he's a former Flyer, and they're very good in the regular season. They win a couple playoff rounds here and there. But we're not allowed to ask questions about Brindamore. You get where I'm coming from, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, it's only natural because that's such a bad stat and a real bad look. Ultimately, this is Tolsky's first year with Carolina, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's
going to be a second. It's his first.
I can't remember. I think it might be his first. There was a whole lot that went on. I think the GM went to Columbus, the original one. I forget his name. But the number one issue with Carolina is the ownership. It's like, they got some really nice players and they got a really nice system, but they really kind of lack superstar talent. I think the closest thing they have is Sebastian Aho, and I think that's. And obviously they really aren't built for the playoffs. They don't have that guy. They're pretty old. They're injury prone. Like Frederick Anderson is a freak occurrence when you see him at 100%. Looked good the other night. But I get what you're saying. But at the same time, just from reality here, you got a very cheap ownership group, or I forget the name of the owner, and they just signed Brindamore. To an extension, 5 years, $2 million per, which is $2 million per is so much cheaper than I realized. When you think about,
just signed Rick Tocchet for $3 million more for the next 5 years.
That's what I'm saying. It was a big deal to sign him to that extension. It was. Remember, they thought he was leaving. There was all this crap. Brind'Amore's not going nowhere. I'm telling you. Not only is he through and through a Carolina Hurricane, like, they signed him long term to $2 million a year. The idea that they would let him go and have to pay him another 4 years, maybe they give him 1 more year, same result, 3 more years, and then hire another coach? No chance. No chance.
Like, the only way he's gone is if he chooses to leave, kind of thing.
And which he'll not get a dime. Yeah, they'll rip up the contract and be like, I'm out of here. And he loves Carolina. He loves the players that, so like, you could ask questions. And I agree with some of those questions. It's a little bit of everything. It is the GM and the whole debacle with Ratnan and whatnot. And, the team structure itself, they don't have those playoff style of guys. This is why when they get this far, because they usually have an easier road, just the way the goofy playoff structure is. It's not to say they're not a good team. They definitely beat good teams. But you look at what, like, Florida and Toronto, what Florida was going through, and then you look at what they went through. And yeah, Washington was really good, but I think we knew that they weren't really going to hang around in the playoffs very long. And it's like, and then they play like a really tried and true playoff team, and look what happens to them. They get, like you said, absolutely waxed in the Eastern Conference Finals. It seems to be a thing. It's a little bit of the coaching, but I'm looking at the team makeup and the ownership, and that's what it comes down to. They lack a true, like, stud player. They lack anybody who can really do anything for you in the playoffs. And it's like, okay, well, ultimately it's one of those things where it's got to fall on somebody, right? Then you look at the head coach. In this scenario, You can look at the head coach until you're blue in the face. He ain't going anywhere because ownership finally ponied up and paid somebody, which isn't even that much. And they're not letting him go a year into that contract. And what? Just knowing them, they would just promote the assistant coach and give him, I don't know, league minimum for a coach and ride it out. So it's unfortunate because I see a lot on Twitter. Oh, the Flyers hired Tocchet and Brind'Amour's about to become available. It's like, yeah, hold you. Yeah, I think we'll be just fine. I think both those contracts might be coming to an end roughly around the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, you made a good point with that. Because I'm like, wait, we can't criticize this guy because he's a former Flyer. I know he's a great dude. I would love him as a Flyers coach. But I think there should be, you should be able to ask questions. Now, I think he put a lot of that talk to bed. They won last night. But I like your point in that, they signed him for 5 years, $2 million per. They're not letting him go after year one, not because of what's happened on the ice. It's that, the owner's cheap. He's locked in. We're not going to let this guy go and continue to pay him and then hire somebody else. So,
and Jim, I mean, they're winning games in the regular season. They're advancing 2 rounds in the playoff. That's money. Regardless of like winning the ultimate prize, as a cheap owner, you're getting a lot of playoff revenue. So, I mean, they're not going to touch anything. Tulsky may make some changes to the team. Like, they're a spot that I could see Marner winding up potentially, although that's going to cost money. So we'll see. But yeah, Brind'Amour's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Zach comments, love the podcast, guys. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Zach. We appreciate that. So with this Tulsky guy, he's taken a lot of shit, and I know he took a lot of stuff at the trade deadline as well. He tried to add, in my opinion, one of the superstars of the NHL, and I think he's proving it with Dallas, or at least he did the first 2 rounds, in Mikko Rantanen. So we can't say that he hasn't tried to acquire star talent. And, Rantanen's not a small guy. He's a big dude. His nickname's Moose. I mean, it'd be pretty funny. He was a small guy and they called him Moose, but big dude, superstar, in my opinion. He's having a coming out party in the playoffs, doing it without McKinnon, yada, yada. And then where he made his mistake is trading for the guy and not knowing that he wasn't going to re-sign in Carolina. I mean, that's a massive mistake because that information got out. They were still able to get Logan Stankoven for him. But as we're seeing, Stankoven's another smaller guy, rookie. He's I think he has 2 goals and an assist in this round, or maybe it's the entire playoffs. So I can look that up real quick. But the GM, like, I'll give him a pass. I know he inherited a pretty good roster here, and like you're saying, Jack, he's got the skill stuff down. Now you can kind of add in, I don't know, the bigger pieces, the big bodies, or the superstar, or whatever it is. So
it's funny. They're a team I could see, and they're a team that's always moved like players in and out. Like they have a new decor going back a couple of years, like every year. Like, you'll look at somebody's player card and be like, oh, he had a couple stops in Carolina. Like Hannafin, who's the one that signed in who's the weird one that signed it with the Devils? Oh my God. They're offensive defensemen, the big free agent signing from a couple of years ago. No.
Hamilton.
Dougie Hamilton.
Teach me how to Dougie.
Fox was there. Adam Fox was there for a hot second in the Hannafin deal. What's his name? It was with the Rangers and went to Nashville. Was there a bigger guy? They're just they brought in Brent Burns. They brought in Ghost. They brought in Sean Walker. Like, and they brought in Orlov. Like, they're constantly interchanging their defense. It's ridiculous, and it's true. Some of these guys are done. And watching Ghost take a slap shot at Brad Marchand was one of the Bush League things I've ever seen. And I have not been the biggest Ghost lover. And like, I was kind of happy for him, like when he went to Arizona and he needed to go there and figure things out. Brady Shea, thank you, Zach. Brady Shea was who I was thinking about. That was in with the Rangers in Carolina. And now he's in Nashville. My point is they're just interchanging. Tony DeAngelo is there. Or not anymore. He was the Islanders this year. but he was there last year. Well, that was the trade. We got that prospect defenseman. Do you remember his name? Or center, rather. You remember his name? We had the
You asking me?
yes.
Massimo Rizzo?
That's it, Rizzo. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, but Tony D, I think he went to the KHL and then signed with the Islanders at the end of the year. But like that's what I'm saying. Like even before Tulsky, there are just it's offense too, mostly defense, but offense too. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were going to do something similar. I mean, you look at the trade they did make for Rantanen. They traded some of their own. And I know that wasn't a good idea at the time. And he didn't have things under wraps and have an idea of what he was bringing in and what that player wanted. But the other rumored deal that was turned down was he wanted Marner for Rantanen. And Marner shut that down. And he still got something for him and whatnot. So, like, I don't even remember what started this train of thought, but I expect them to go into the offseason and just shuffle things up. Like, they're a team I could see trying to add Marner, but maybe it's just too much money, even though they need a superstar. Maybe they spend a little bit less, but still a lot, and they get a guy like Bennett that covers two things. Now you got your playoff guy, and, he's still a pretty good player in his own right. He's not a top line guy, top six, yes, but top line, no. But like, we'll see. We'll see what the calculator says, because Tulsky, he's one of those guys. He's an analytic darling and whatnot, and we'll see what happens. But they're going to have to do something.
Here's a question for you, Jack. So the Flyers aren't a good example for this question. Like, last week I was starting trouble saying Sam Bennett. I would prefer Sam Bennett over Mitch Marner, and I would. For this Carolina team, which player would mean more to them in the playoffs? Like, do they need a Sam Bennett or do they need a Mitch Marner? Which player would help them win 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals? Like, which team do they need against Florida? Do they need Sam Bennett, or do you think Mitch Marner would make the difference in a series for them right now?
Well, this is a loaded question, because I get what you're ultimately getting at is Sam Bennett, because that's the kind of player that kills them and they have nothing to push back with. Somebody said it in the chat earlier, and I agree with it. When they try to push back, it looks awkward because they're not that team. So the answer is Bennett. Plus, you consider the salary, and that makes more sense too. However, Mitch Marner through games 1 through 4, although he's never played in the Eastern Conference, is pretty good. It's games 5 through 7 where he comes up almost with, completely empty with goose eggs. But if I were Carolina and you're trying to be cost effective because your owner's cheap, I would lean towards Bennett. I really would. It would definitely be something more to consider. As great as getting a great talent like that, I could see them in the regular season winning the President's Trophy, but come playoff time, I don't know how much of a difference that would make. But if I had to choose one or the other, I would lean towards Bennett for multiple reasons.
I mean, yeah, like I'm watching this series, and I don't watch Carolina in the playoffs. I think that they're unwatchable. They're not fun at all. And maybe it's because they don't have, those mix it up type of guys. They're all business. But we're seeing against Florida, the defending champs, and they've become the modern era Broad Street Bullies, you could say. Maybe the modern era. I'm not saying that they're exact, but they were kicking the shit out of Carolina every single game. 6-0, 5-2, whatever it was. And then there was a point in the third period where they were like, now we're actually going to kick the shit out of you. You know what I mean?
Because I remember may he rest in peace, Ed Van Imp, the famous line, he ran into my elbow. Isn't that what Stolarz did to Bennett? He ran into his elbow. I mean, that sounds very Broad Street Bully if you ask me. I mean, comparatively with the other teams in the league, and they're the closest thing. They have you can make a whole line with Bennett and Kachuk and Marchand. My God, it's Rat City. I mean,
they're must-see team. Like, they're fun, man. Like, even when they're up 6-0, you're like, what the hell are they going to do now? Like, who are they going to, when Kachuk was chasing after Aho for, I think it was a slew foot or a weird hit on Reinhart. When Kachuk was chasing him down the ice, I'm like, dude, this is must-watch hockey. Like, they're beating the hell out of them, 6-0, and now they're sending messages. It's stars versus stars, and Carolina had no answer. So, I'm watching the post game. I'm listening to guys like Biz and Anson Carter and these guys, and I'm like, they're saying that Carolina is a little soft, that they're not sticking up for each other. And even in game 4, they they weren't really going after Florida. They were all just kind of standing in a group as opposed to, one-on-one or whatever it was. They don't have anybody that can answer back, and I have to assume that they're not afraid. They just don't have guys with that in their DNA. And so I'm watching this and I'm like, anybody who's argued with me for the last 2 weeks, Marner over Bennett, I hope you're watching this series because that's why you go get a Sam Bennett.
Yeah, you got one guy who's been in this round multiple times and really making his presence felt. I mean, there's more to it. It's a long conversation. It's not black and white, but I get what you're saying. And I do think this has a lot to do with this Brady Martin stuff too. I agree with this, Grant. There is definitely
real quick, I want to say because Carolina is a team that's very good in the regular season, and they're winning 2 playoff rounds. But when it's time to win the big one, the team that knows how to play playoff hockey is kicking the shit out of them.
Yeah, I mean, look at Washington. They've won multiple President's trophies, and the only time they got past the second round was the year they won the Cup. And Tom Wilson, that was like one of the series he spent the least time suspended in the playoffs. Like when he was rolling and doing, they were a good team too, but he was doing his thing. That's when he got his big first extension as well. Like guys like that make their presence felt, and it's a proven. It's almost like the rebuild. Like people, it doesn't always work. Well, nothing 100% works, but it's got a pretty good proven track record. Much like these kind of players added to your playoff roster, and like I think about the 2010 Flyers. And they had some good players for sure, some talented, skilled guys, but they were the 7th seed. They made the playoffs in the last game of the season. And guys like Mike Richards and Chris Pronger are a huge reason they went to the Cup. And I saw a lot of those games live. So please try to argue me on that one. Even Carcillo scoring overtime goals, for God's sake. But like those kind of players, there is definitely something to that. And it always has been. They don't call as many penalties in the playoffs. That's a fact. Or you can argue with whoever you want about that. It is a fact. They definitely hide the whistles in the playoffs, and players like that will take advantage. And they have, and that's Florida's MO.
Yep. All right. So we have one more topic before we get to our, if we're going to get into some draft stuff later in the episode here. Frank Saravalli put out a top 20 trade list, and or most likely to be traded list during this offseason. And Thatcher Demko was on there. Now, I think it was towards the bottom of the list, 16, 17, 18, even 19, maybe somewhere like that. And I believe he connected them to the Philadelphia Flyers. Why? Well, because the former coach of the Canucks is now the coach of the Flyers. And it was reported that Demko and Tocchet had a very close relationship. Tocchet was somebody that Demko leaned on for support, and Tocchet was good for encouragement, this and that. Now, Thatcher Demko. Well, before we get into, maybe the meat and potatoes of this, I'll just ask you from the start. Yes or no, Jack? Thatcher Demko, is this a name that you're interested in at all?
From a dynasty fantasy perspective, he was a name I was a big fan of. He's got a pretty rough injury history, and this knee injury, he's already not going to be able to start next season on time. So, and he's only got 1 year left at $5 million, which isn't cheap, but at 1 year, what do you care? However, that being said, the muscle tear he has, it's a little muscle, but it's very big on stabilizing the knee. And we're talking about a goalie with an injury history. That is a big red flag for me. And I understand the talent was there. I don't know if he can stay healthy, and he's already going to be starting next season behind. So, and Frank Saravalli has had him linked to the Flyers since before the trade deadline. And I if it was Demko of 2.5 years ago, we can have a conversation. But now I'm like, you're in a position where they want to turn the corner. This is the year, right? You want stability at the goaltending position. Urson cannot play a regular starting goalie schedule. His play will fall off. He has his own groin issues. You're playing with fire there. You have nobody else because you're not, Bjarnason is too, I think he's too young to come up unless he freaks out. Even then, you're looking at a spot starter at most. Everybody else is gone. You're not depending on Fedotov unless you're in McKenna sweepstakes, for God's sake. And Lord knows the hell's going on with Kolosov. So if we're going to bring in anybody, it would be somebody that can play definitely his share of games. And bringing in a guy at $5 million for 1 year who is already fighting a stabilizing knee injury, will miss at least building up his knee. He'll be behind. He's probably going to miss time at the beginning of the season. Lord knows if he gets hurt again. He also had back spasms last year as well. Somebody mentioned hips. The knee's bad. There's way too many red flags. We should definitely look elsewhere, because if he gets hurt, it's like, well, now we got the Urson show. And God forbid you do get an offer sheet and give up the 2026 first. And now you're right back in the McKenna sweepstakes because you have no goaltending again, which was the number one reason why the team did what it did last year. Talk about, I said it, I'm going to say it again, red flag city. I can't do it. I appreciated how good he was a couple of years ago. I'm out.
Yeah. I was surprised to see this. I get the connection. I understand it. And Oakham chimes in. Oakham, thanks for watching. It's nice to know that somebody watches the videos. So thank you. In the video, I mentioned that he's only played over 40 games twice in his career. So hasn't really ever been that durable. I think one of his seasons was cut short due to COVID. Look, if during the majority of his career and he didn't have this potentially chronic knee issue, I would say, okay, this is a guy that maybe the Flyers could use and split starts with Urson for the next year. So perfect stopgap guy, if you will. I'm not sure how Vancouver still sees Thatcher Demko. And look, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend that I've read up on his medical and what he's got going on with his knee and his hips. I know that he played 23 games last year and his numbers were down from what we're used to seeing from Thatcher Demko. If I'm the Flyers, I wouldn't feel great about giving up assets for him. So that means to me, you're not getting any round 1, round 2, round 3 picks for this guy. You're going to have to retain salary on Thatcher Demko if that's, if it's half, let's say. So the Flyers would get him for 2.5 for a year. And obviously, that would bump up the assets going back. But there's still no guarantee that this guy plays. Let's say they sign him to play in 25 or they trade for him to play in 25, 30 games. Maybe they see Thatcher Demko at 70 or 80% as being better than Ivan Fedotov at 100, or maybe he's just a guy they see that can stabilize the goalie position for Urson. I don't know. But this is not a player that I'd feel comfortable giving up valuable assets. So like I said, no first-round picks, no second-round picks, and you're not getting any top prospects for him. And if you're Vancouver, why would you want to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It just, I don't know why it's being reported outside of, like I said, he had mentioned that before we even got Tocchet. So it's not even just a Tocchet thing. I don't understand it. I really hope that's not coming from the Flyers organization, because that's what they're thinking. That's going to be a problem. Why are they rolling the dice on a position unless they're not getting any restricted free agents, they're not signing any offer sheets, and they're going to stealth tank again. And if they added him and they're like, okay, we're going with him at Kolosov, I'm like, and then they didn't get any restricted free agents, I'm like, we're stealth tanking. That's exactly what's happening. They are going for McKenna, and we don't even know it, except for we do know it because it's so idiotic. Because why roll the dice on a position like that when you can sign like Jake Allen or an Alex Lyon or who else was mentioned? The guy from the Vladar, something like that. I just, and then you're giving up assets on top of that for that. Come on. No, yeah. I don't see it.
Yeah, I would agree. Oakham Oakham mentioned Alex Lyon. We did a video on him a few months ago. Jack was mentioning Lyon months ago, his potential name. And look, if you can sign a guy, even if Lyon, even if you had to sign him for $3 million for 2 years, that's still in my opinion, better than Demko. Even if, let's say, they retain, you get him for 2.5. Pay the extra $500K. You keep your assets. You get a healthy guy. You know him. He's been in your system before. You kind of know what you're getting in Alex Lyon. You're getting a guy whose save percentage is going to hover around 900. Whether it's reliable or not, I think you know what you're getting at least. Whereas Demko, there's all kinds of questions, So
exactly.
Yeah. All right. We have about 5 minutes left. We didn't get to any draft talk last week. Let's get to some this week. Where do you want to start with this, Jack? You have a couple verses in the topic list here. We could talk Misa. Where do you want to go with this?
I think the number one thing people are interested right now is basically Brady Martin, and I have pretty strong feelings about that. I think in our topics here, we had like a Martin versus Jake O'Brien kind of thing based on who we think will be available. Let's think worst case scenario, right? Like Schaefer's gone, obviously. Misa's gone, obviously. We'll say Denoyes, Martone, and Hagens. I'm sorry, Denoyes, Frondell, and Hagens are gone. So that leaves us at 6. There's Martone, who is a winger that we should not be interested in. However, some people think if you take him and you move other assets out, I don't know how you wind up with a center, but whatever, that he's an option. Theoretically, I think they're going to still draft a center. Jake O'Brien has Morgan Frost vibes and that's like a negative thing, but the positive, he could be a hell of a player because Morgan Frost was a projected early second rounder who we took with the late first, and the rest is history. His vision is really good, and it might come down to a effort thing, and he's obviously got to put on some strength and whatnot. I don't know. I really don't know enough about. I haven't seen him play too much. I know we're jaded to a Jay O'Brien, but he's healthy. And one thing I will tell you is the Flyers, and this goes with Jet Luchenko perfectly. The Flyers seem to be diving into the age-adjusted stats. You can look at it with Jet Luchenko. You can look at it with Zavragin over in Russia. These are young guys playing above their age. Even Frondell, it fits this mold, because he's playing against men. They seem to like guys that are young for their draft age, playing but performing in leagues and doing pretty well. O'Brien falls into that category. Now I'll go on to the next player, Brady Martin, who is
Go ahead. Go ahead. So
no. You go ahead.
O'Brien, I believe it or not. So I've heard the Frost comparison a couple times. I didn't watch Frost play in the OHL before the Flyers drafted him. But I got to tell you, I enjoy watching Jake O'Brien. And I was one of those guys. Like, I don't want an O'Brien. I got PTSD, but I'm like, you know what? Let me watch this guy. I'm putting out a video. Let me just see what we're going on here. And he's fun. He has a little bit of that. He dictates. He plays with conviction as well. He dictates offense. He's always looking for the puck. He might do the unexpected thing once in a while. I know it's the OHL, so there's a lot of offense, but you can see he's always thinking. I think he's got good hockey IQ. He's always looking to, I don't want to say always, but he's looking to make that pass to set up one of his teammates. I think he's a fun player to watch. Like I said, though, I didn't watch Morgan Frost when he was an OHL player. Defensively, I think so I haven't watched enough O'Brien to say I like him play defensively, but I've seen him work back defensively. Whereas, I didn't really notice so much of that with Frost, even as of recently as last year. To me, O'Brien stuck out. And I know it's the OHL, high scoring league, but he's 17 years old, like you said, 6'2". You'd expect him to grow into that frame a little bit. Yeah, he wasn't a guy that I was like, I don't want to pick him at 6. But he's somebody that I think they need to consider. So that's it.
And if the draft goes the way I just alluded to, I really think he'll go him, Brady Martin, maybe, Martone because of where he's at. And I hope they don't trade down, but or even Roger McQueen potentially, but you're really rolling the dice there. Although he's exactly what they described they need, but that's another conversation for another day. So yeah, O'Brien's exciting. Some of the Frost stuff, it's also recency bias of what we dealt with, but I hate to put that all on the kid. You mentioned his hockey sense, his ability to think, like almost see things before they happen.
Yeah.
Michkov plays that way. It'd be really nice to have a center who could play the same way or at least think this game the same way that Michkov does. That's what has me coming around to the idea of taking O'Brien at 6. Now, Brady Martin, if you could build a prototypical flyer in a machine, it would probably be Brady Martin. That does not mean you take him 6 overall. I mean, his comparisons are up there with Mike Richards, for Christ's sake. And I love Mike Richards. He's one of my favorite players I've ever seen play. At the end of the day, we need somebody with skill. And he's got some skill. He can pick corners and whatnot. He's going to be hitting everybody. We had all that talk about the playoffs and what you need. Brady Martin, to me, is a guy, he's your second line center, not your first. We're still looking for a first line center. If you are out, your guy is going to say they're all in for Hagens and he goes to Nashville and they go, oh, screw it. That tier is gone. We're just going to take who we like. I'll be very disappointed. I feel like you're selecting more for a safer floor. He'll definitely be a fan favorite, hands down. And it'll be fun to watch. And he'll be probably pretty decent with Michkov. But like comparatively, to get the most out of a guy like Michkov and your younger players, we always talk about center and whatnot. I want the more higher skilled, thinking in the game at a different level guy. Brady Martin would be great. He'd be awesome if we took him, like traded up and took him at, 12, because he's probably, if he gets out of the top 10, I'll be surprised. But he's also the fastest riser I've seen in a long time. And it all seems to happen after the U18s. Like before the U18s, he was like 12, 15, 18. U18s, boom, 6. Holy shit. Not saying I don't like the player, but that is a bit of a red flag for me. I'd rather take the skill. Let's go with the skill. We can find the Basham brother later who can play a little bit. And I don't want to poo-poo him too much because there's so many elements of his game I respect and like and is very flyer. But this is a new brand. This is a new color, new orange. So let's get the skill. Let's get somebody to play with Michkov, not bulldoze everybody over in the hopes that we do make the playoffs. And once we're there, he'll just kill everybody. Now, I take away from his game a little bit. He definitely can play, but come on. You got the way you're building your team does not scream, okay, Brady Martin at 6. It doesn't. It does not. I don't know where he's not a number 1 center. I don't see that in his potential. He'll eventually reach number 1 center. I don't see that at all. It's definitely possible with Hagens, Frondell, O'Brien. I don't see that being possible with Martin.
Would it ease your mind at all if I said there might not be a number 1 center in this draft?
No, because this is the highest we're going to draft. As we're done, we're turning a corner unless they acquire Thatcher Demko. He gets hurt, Erson gets hurt, and we stealth tank and get McKenna. It's the only other way. This is it. Because you ain't trading for one unless you really roll the dice. This is our best pick, and I don't think they should waste it. I think they got it. That's why McQueen kind of enters my mind a little bit, and people freak out like, "Oh my God, it's back!" I get it. I promise you, I get it. But you gotta roll the dice on potentially getting a top line guy, because what the hell else are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Give me your Rossies and your McTavishes and you know all those guys. Are any of them number 1 centers? I don't know. Probably not, because number 1 center that gets thrown around a little too easily. This is our best chance, unless you completely tank next year, in which case you probably still don't wind up with, no matter how bad you are, you probably still don't wind up with McKenna, because that's how the way things are. This is your best chance.
Do you think it's possible they look at Luchenko and they're like, here's our skilled center. He's our speed guy, pass first, good defensively, not very physical, not very big. Do we need another skill guy who, pure offense, good two-way guy? And I guess I have O'Brien in mind for this discussion. Or do we need a guy who, when we're ready to make the playoffs, he's going to help us get us there. And he's going to be one of those guys in the playoffs where teams are going to be like, man, if we only had a Brady Martin, you know what I mean?
I think Calgary was thinking that when they drafted both Sam Bennett and Brady Tkachuk. I'm sorry, Matthew Tkachuk.
Mhm.
But, how'd that work out? Both players are in Florida.
Calgary. I mean, who the hell wants to play? Sorry for any of our Canadian
and
friends.
They had a couple of playoff runs. I don't think they made it past the second round. But, Bennett was a guy you found out was better in a secondary role. And Kachuk's a winger, so that's kind of out of the conversation. Like, he may be a guy who's best used, and I think so, as a second line center.
Well, that's kind of where I was going when I asked, what if I said that there's no top line center in the draft? Would it ease your mind if I told you that? And it's like, not that I'm trying to make you okay with a guy that you don't want, but it's like, okay, so let's imagine Hagens, Brady Martin, and who's the other center? Is there Denoyer? Let's say it's between those three guys. And Denoyer's got the two-way game. He's got some offensive pop. O'Brien's got the offensive game, plays a little bit two-way. And Brady Martin, he could do a little bit of offense, a little bit of defense. He adds the physical aspect. Can also play on the PK, on the power play. And of those three, what's maybe Martin does a little bit of everything. And the other two guys, maybe they do the offense and defense, but they don't have the physical aspect. Would that sway you at all into Martin? Because look, I'm not sold on him either. I'm just for the argument's sake.
If anything, I'm taking Denoyer because he'll give you, I don't want to, the best of both worlds is not the proper usage, but he's skilled and he's still gritty. He's not Brady Martin gritty, but he's still kind of gritty. So if Denoyer were available, Martin's off the board for me because I'm getting more skill with a player who brings enough of that aspect of the game and could still, even then, I think you're still kind of reaching, but could still maybe be a top line center. If you're talking about all 32 teams, he may be 30th or one day, but at least there's a chance where Brady Martin, I don't think ever is in that conversation.
All right. Very good.
The last thing on Martin, it's also not you play your career that way, you might have a short career, and that could hurt as well. And it's, I don't know if you want to do that.
Especially
or be the team that deals with it.
Somebody,
look. I hate to shit on Mike Richards, but great player, loved him, great captain, all that. He didn't truly become successful, and win. Truly win. And they came awfully close. But again, they were the 7th seed, and they got lucky when Montreal eliminated top seeds Pittsburgh and Washington. And then they played 8th seed Montreal and ran them over and ultimately fell short to Chicago.
Hey, but Richards, who did the Flyers have to beat?
We beat the Devils, who I think were a little bit fraudulent. And then Boston was good, but again went down we spotted them 3 games, Jim, and then next year they went and won the cup after they swept us. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of efforts there, there was a lot of miracles there. My point is Richards and they didn't really win anything until he became the second guy. When he went to LA, they had Kopitar, they had Dustin Brown, they had Quick, they had Doughty, they had everything. He was a piece. He was just a piece. He wasn't the guy. We need the guy. So we can't draft. And I love Richards, but we need the guy. And until we get the guy.
Again, that's what I'm saying. The guy, unless you're drafting 1 or 2, probably is not in this draft.
Yeah. I mean,
the guy.
You can say that though, but if you look,
you can make an argument for somebody, but there's not the guy.
You would have said
if you're the guy, there's no argument, right?
You would have said the same thing of 2017, and you
said
if you're not drafting 1 or 2, you're not getting the guy. Yet a guy like Pettersson went 5th. It's possible,
but this is not close to that.
No, 2017 was not a highly regarded draft. Yeah, Jason Robinson doing that.
Nolan Patrick, yada yada.
Right. Like, and
Yeah.
it's not, 2015, that's a highly regarded draft, but like 2017 was not a highly regarded draft in hindsight. And you had guys like Heiskanen, McCarr, and obviously
All right, sure.
Elias
I get what
Pettersson.
you're saying.
So like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm also saying don't, throw it out completely. Like,
I'm just saying that there's not the guy in this draft.
there's no Austin Matthews or Connor McDavid or Gavin McKenna for sure.
All right.
There's no generational talent, but how many people, and the jury's not out, but how many
Like you
people
can make
thought Connor,
arguments for guys, which I think is fair.
but how many guys thought, or how many people thought that Connor Bedard was going to be a generational talent? And now they're kind of hoping like, oh geez, I really hope he has a good year. And he probably will, but he's just really good. Like generational is almost out of the question. Like, I hope he's really good. Please be really good. So it's not a perfect science. So I think you have to take each draft individually, trust your draft room. And this, by the way, huge draft for Brent Flair, because if you look at his track record, there's a lot of question marks. There's some good. There's a lot of question marks as well. This at 6 will be a massive pick for him. Massive.
Yeah. And we have just a little bit over a month now as the draft is June 29th is the first day?
28th, 29th, something like that.
Yeah. So we're just a little bit over a month away. And we are just about at the end of our show tonight. I want to thank everybody in the chat for another great episode. And let me get to the ending script here. We'll be back next week. Of course, talking draft. A lot more draft talk to get to. Jack, are you recording Thursday?
Thursday, I'm back with Josh Bright and Paul Pollock. We're getting our rest of our draft, beef of the draft. We're going to do as many picks as we can. We get talking, so I don't know how far we're going to get. We're going to keep at it. We're going to go pretty much every week until we get to the draft itself. Flyers have a lot of picks. We'll see how far we go. Hopefully we can get all 7 of the Flyers picks in. So that's like a top 60. We'll see how far we go. I may have just thrown out an impossible ad, but we're going to try anyway. And it's, hey, who doesn't want draft content at this point? Let's go. So it is Thursday, 8 o'clock. Thank you, Explicit, for asking. 8 o'clock, like we did last week. Check out last week's show as well, when we did our top 10. And we're going to go from 11 on, see how far we get. 11 on, see what we can do.
Great stuff there. If you haven't yet, you can check out the latest videos that we put out. There's the line in Shabanov, Thatcher Demko. We also did player profiles. I think that's about a month ago now, April, 3 weeks away. I'm pretty sure we got done the first 5 or 6, 7 potential picks of the draft, or top 7 players so far. We'll do more of those. But yeah, I'm sure there's some players Thursday night you'll be talking about. Radim Merka, who I think is an interesting player. I don't know about at 6.
Big boy.
Yeah. So a lot of great stuff coming up. A lot of great stuff out there already. Check it out. Make sure you guys keep your eyes and ears open. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you subscribe and help us on our quest for 5,000 subscribers by this time next year. Like and leave a comment for us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, and set alerts so you're first to know when we drop a new show. For all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, you can head over to hwhockey.net. For Jack, I'm Jim. Don't forget to keep it high, keep it wide, and we'll see you next time on HW Hockey. Bye-bye.